We are now live. We are now live. We are now live.
We are live.
Turn the brightness up for you. Put that light on you.
All right.
How did you do that?
Don't worry about it. I'll Google Drive you how to do that.
Oh, there. I got mine too. Watch. Look, I can do the same thing.
I'm so proud of you. Just give it up.
Wow, that's a good little find. I've only been searching for that for 2 years.
See that? Just one time coming over to Calf's office.
I saw the whole.
And after doing the show for 4 or 5 years. Well, yeah, that's the strobe effect Brian put in. Yeah, to that PowerPoint.
All right, you guys have fun.
All right, thanks, Calf. We'll be done in a minute. How are you, Tass?
I'm good, man.
This is cool. This is different. This is like, look at this background of busyness.
Yes, the busy office.
So, hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. And because we can't see anybody, I can't see who we have.
It's not Zoom. Mr. Weaver just joined.
Can you see that? Let me pull it up here so I could just see what's going on. And we have something different for everybody today, don't we, Tess?
Yes, we do. Other than the background in the office you're sitting in, we got something different.
All right.
I don't know why I didn't think to turn my brightness up on my computer for 4 years. That's a good idea. Mr. Halama, Shelby. All right. We got some people on, Matt. You can't see those people in your upper right? Mr. McClung, how are you?
Oh, I see. There you go. How are you?
Oh.
Mr. Perez. All right.
Whoa.
Well, guys.
Look at that background. It's impressive.
Hey, so we actually have a little bit of we have a PowerPoint for everybody today. That's it. Period. We have a PowerPoint for everybody today.
And there's the one slide, so that's all we had for you.
The 3 things that stop you from growing your school.
It might be 4. It might be 4. The first one that almost stopped us from doing the show was technological difficulties, but we'll skip that one.
Right. So it is 4 because I like to have things in force.
That's right. That's right.
Wow, it's funny. July, man. It's like I think the only people tuning in are our family and friends.
Mr. Audie from across the pond. How are you, sir? Mr. Wilson? Yeah, could be.
Well, hello, everybody. So, hey, we did the reason why I wanted to go over this is we were out for a couple weeks because we did an event in Dallas. We had the big MAIA Edge event in Dallas. And one of the things that I talked about was, think bigger, get out of your own way type thing. And it seemed to have struck a chord with everybody there. And I thought, you have to understand that the only people that we deal with are people that want to grow their school in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether it's more students, more revenue, provide opportunity, whatever, just grow. And from working with people, why isn't it that you aren't where you want to be with your school? And people justify, and it's a self-defense mechanism. They justify, and I'll just call it out because it's public, right? But there was a post from a gentleman who said it'll be a cold day in hell before I give you guys, you scammers and this, that, and the other. And it's funny because I don't ever remember meeting the guy. I don't ever remember seeing this gentleman in any of our seminars. I don't ever remember him coming and visiting any of our schools. And he says, you guys are like, fake martial arts. He didn't say fake martial arts. He said that you're not a true martial artist or this, that, and the other, the philosophies. So I'm like, who is this nice man that's the martial artist of the year? And I look at his profile pic and he's giving the middle finger in his profile pic. I said, that's the guy I want to strive to be, and it's like, that's the kind of guy I'd really like to get in a room and help, because it's like, like it's just a self-defense mechanism on why we're not doing better than we want to be, you know. And it's just crazy. But you know what you all may not see is that mentality. Unless you're in the consulting business, you know, you probably don't realize that that's the majority of the industry. The majority of the industry has this mindset of let's bash anybody that's doing well or is successful or that's offering to help, even for a fee, because there's a fee. If you want to get consulting, you got to pay for consulting, right? And by the way, whatever you pay any consultant, I'm sure it's not how much they invested in themselves and paid to get that knowledge and understanding of a business. So from all that, I thought, what are the 3 things that stop you from growing your school? So Perry, do you want to put up the title slide, or how does that work? Or is it just stay up in
Well,
the
we got the title slide of the 3 things that stop you from growing your school. Can you see that, Metz?
Yeah, I see it up there. Yeah.
So you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah. So let's hold on. I'm getting a thing from the producer here. Oh, okay. So by the way, he's just saying he just shared to some other groups. So basically what I said is because we were, because we did an event in Dallas, something that struck a chord with a lot of the people in Dallas was about thinking bigger and getting out of your own way. So today I wanted to do a show, or we wanted to do a show on, from talking with people, what are the 3 things that we hear that stop somebody from going to the next level, basically is the deal. So let's hit the first one, Mr. Perry, as he has control of this. Okay. Tass, fear is one thing that stops you from growing your school. Now, fear of, and before you reiterate, because I'm going to throw it to you on this task, but Perry, turn the slide to the next thing. So number 1, afraid to fail. So Tass, when you talk with people, right, and they want help, they want to say, hey, you know, I'm just reaching out because I want to know how you might be able to help me grow my school, this, that, and then you start going into some things, and then the reasons of why they can't start coming in. And
right.
what is it that they're afraid to fail? Why is that so important to overcome?
Well, I think what happens is that for a lot of people, you know, this is a saying that I think is important to realize. What's got you to where you are isn't going to get you to where you want to be. And they've had the courage to be able to pick up the phone and make the phone call because they know they want to be someplace differently. But sometimes what happens is that they need to understand the why we're doing what we do. And of course, we explain all those reasons. But everyone has fear of change, right? And so we're just so used to doing something for a period of time. And by the way, whether you're a small school, and I would say the fear, not only for me personally, and also some of the clients I deal with, I think the fear factor is actually less of a fear with schools that may be struggling because they're willing to do anything to change their school. I sometimes think the more successful you are, the more afraid you are to change things because you've realized some level of success and you don't want to go backwards because we've realized this level of success and you're fearful that if I make these adjustments that I may slip and go backwards. So, you know, a lot of the fear comes from, I think, the fear of being afraid not to fail, but maybe afraid to fail to do the things that are required to get to the next level, which is work. And so if we want to get to that next level, there's work involved. So there's that fear. There's the fear of, you know, being afraid of what the work is that I'm going to have to do to get to that next level. Because usually when we get the phone call is coming from someone that is struggling, and they in some cases they want to enhance their business or maximize their business, but they've worked so hard to get where they are, and sometimes they can be a little bit burnt out because they feel like they've tried everything. And so the fear of going to do work to see and hope that it's going to work can sometimes be a fear as well. And so those are some of the things that we've got to overcome with new clients.
And you said it during this. Hit the next slide there, Mr. Perry. afraid of the challenge. And this is a big one, because people are afraid, well, I can't scale the school, or I can't open a second school, or I can't, because I'm going to be overwhelmed. This is hard enough. This is, so you're afraid to take on that challenge. And by the way, depending on how you run your business, it could be very, very difficult, even running one location, when you don't have systems in place. But this is the thing that we try to tell people. When you have systems in place, right, it is not hard. It is not hard. And that is why I repeat myself often, saying, look, at the end of the day, there's three things that you got to do in your business. You got to retain the students you have, you got to recruit new students, and you got to generate revenue. Now, when you say, see, all about the money, no, it's not, because when we talk about retaining students, it's about quality. I mean, you have to provide a good quality program if you want to have long-term retention in your business. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you this. This is a true story. Last night, as you know, Tass, I take Kylie, my daughter. She goes to one of our schools and trains. And, we've hired some new people. And one of the new instructors, Mr. Ibby, who's fantastic, he was at the Lake Nona school last night. Well, after class was over, I was outside talking with a friend of mine, another parent of my daughter's friend, and he came running out. And by the way, Chris Rodriguez just had a mini heart attack. Yeah, you see that? Chris, I've always had keynotes until you told me to stop doing them and to talk off the cuff. But I went back to keynotes.
And if I made that comment, she'd say, too bad he didn't have a full heart attack.
But anyway, Ibby ran out. Listen, Ibby ran out. So that we had testing. We have testing quarterly. So at the end of June, they had testing, and then they had graduation. Well, Ibby was already outside. He was not in. And I opened the door when it was just the two instructors of that school. And I said, hey, with my daughter or any student, I said, don't ever give a belt to my daughter or anyone else if they just go through the motions like my daughter did the other night. I said, she can do much better than that. I said, do not give out a belt. And I said, don't feel obligated because she's my daughter to make sure she passes. I said, you push her. And I said, quality is the number one thing here. And that was it. And they said, well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that, this, that, and the other. I said, great. I walked outside. 10 minutes later, Ibby came out and he said, hey, he goes, your daughter and your daughter, I'm telling you, he goes, they have unbelievable potential. He goes, your daughter, he was talking to me, he goes, her flexibility, her reach, very powerful with her kicks. And he goes, your daughter, just clean the techniques, to my buddy. And I said, Ibby, did you just hear my speech to the two instructors in there? He says, no. I said, well, I really appreciate you saying this. And I said, listen, it's about quality. I said, you make sure that when you get your school, right, because we hired him, he's going to eventually get his school. I said, you push these students to be the best that they can be. It's about, I said, I don't care if you're making $100,000 a month. You make sure that they are doing things. And I said, I appreciated you in class really correcting their side kick when they were working on side kick with the chamber and the foot position and really correcting them. So my point is, if you're overwhelmed running one school, right, you might be able to teach with your eyes closed because that's what you do, but the business part of it may be very stressful for you. We are the ones that can tell you how to not make that stressful, how to maximize that business, and don't limit yourself to where you are today. Don't limit yourself, and definitely don't bash other people that aren't afraid to take that leap, like the picture that Mr. Negron put up there, this guy taking the leap, right? I mean, you got to have more faith in yourself and know that you can do what you want, and don't be afraid of it. Anything you want to add before we go to the second thing that stops people from growing?
No, man, I think that's exactly right. And, I just, as you're saying this and we're talking consultant stuff and we've got systems and this, that, and everything else, I also want to be clear. I know that we say this, it's not because we're better than anybody else. It's because we're the best. No, I'm just teasing. It's because we've had the experience of listening and hearing so many people and hearing the same problems over and over and over, and being able to have the systems to be able to overcome those things. And when you deal with one location. Sometimes you don't have systems in place because you're a single owner operator. But when you have multiple locations, you're forced to have systems if you want to stay alive. You can't manage that many people if you don't have business systems. And that's where all this stuff ties in. I just want to be clear. It's not about us like, oh, you guys think you know it all. I mean, outside of yes, we've had the we've had the experience in dealing with it with these situations. And that's the only difference between us and between you, is that we've talked to hundreds of schools with the same problems, and we've overcome those things. So yeah, business systems are key and will make the transition. And by the way, this is also why the consultant, right? There's a charge for a consultant. You know, the story of the guy coming over to fix the squeaky floor, and he comes over and he's walking on the floor and walking around the floor, and he puts a nail in the floor, and then they get the invoice and it was $500. And they're like, $500? All you did was nail one nail into the floor. And he's like, well, you know, the cost of the nail was $1 and the hammer was this, but knowing where to put the nail was $490 or however the story goes. We can make life easier for you because we know how to insert those systems and make life way easier for you because of the experience.
So the first one is fear. The second one, go ahead, Mr. Perry, is mindset. You got to change your mindset. How many times, Tass, have you heard people say, I'm happy with my 50 students. You know, I'm close with all the family members. I know everybody. You know, we're like a family. And you got to change the mindset, because why can't you be close to the 300 students? And by the way, you're going to say, well, how can you possibly be close? Have you had 300 students?
Right.
Then you don't know how you're going to be close to the 300 students, but you can. You can still have a family atmosphere. And while I'm talking, hit the next one, Mr. Perry, on mindset. You got to think bigger. You got to think bigger. You're in a business, right? Why not be the best that you could possibly be in this business? Like, why not? Why wouldn't you? You know, and I'd love to hear some feedback on why would you limit yourself and say, I just want 100 students. Well, what happens when the 101st student walks in and wants to enroll? Do you tell them, no, I only want 100. I'll put you on a list. And if so, why? But I don't think you do that. I think you'd enroll them, right? But I thought you only wanted 100. Now, if it's not the 101st student, what if they say, and by the way, I'm bringing 80 of my closest friends. We all want to enroll. And you have 80 people that want to enroll. You going to do that? I think so, right?
Well, and Metz, a lot of times when talking to clients also, you know, the question we ask is, you know, well, how can we help and what's the reason for the call? And sometimes that answer is, well, I just want to, you know, what is your goal? Well, I want to be a bigger impact in the community. And so there is this mindset of thinking bigger, because then the next question is often, well, how do you want to do that? Well, I need more students, or I want more students, right? And so we do have this think bigger mentality. I think when we start, if everybody rewinds to the time that you started teaching or opened your school or started working, you know, teaching out of the church or the rec center or whatever it was, I don't think the goal was, hey, you know what? I want to do this because I'm passionate about it and I want 3 students. Like, that's my goal. I think you get into it because you're like, I want to help spread what I've learned and share it with as many people as I can. And then somewhere along the line, that dream can get squashed because you can get to a certain number of students and all of a sudden your think bigger that you had when you first started now isn't so much of a think bigger anymore. It's because we can't get past that number. And so instead of figuring out what we can do to get to that number or impact more lives, we start to settle in and go, well, this is just where I'm at. And we got to remember the passion, the excitement, the fire that we had when we first opened our school and the reasons why, so that we can continue to think bigger and get to that next level. Because it's going to be this, there's natural, you know, plateaus in any business, and our business is no different. And it's knowing what to do to break through those plateaus and how to get through it. So I think you got to go back to what did you originally want when you opened your school? And my guess is to impact as many people as possible. And that was in 3, 5, 7, or 10, right? That's not the answer.
And hit the next slide, Perry, because it's not just think bigger, it's stop justifying, right? Stop justifying on why you're not bigger than what you are, right? And if you really want to impact people with the martial arts, there's levels to that. You know, at first you impact your community, you impact students, but then you can impact staff. You could take a student, change their life, and then give them a career opportunity in martial arts where they're supporting their families on martial arts, right? Because of the martial arts. And now you can spread that out and your teachings even farther and farther, but stop justifying on why you can't, why you don't want to. Like everybody that bashes, like, and you know, Tess, and I said it earlier, if you're not in the consulting business or around that, you may not hear the people that bash consultants or say just stupid shit, basically. You know, I mean, it's just, we laugh about it. As a matter of fact, I want to print it out, post it up in the office. I mean, I get a kick out of that because you don't realize how bad you look and how uneducated you look. And you just do, right? When you do that, because why wouldn't you want to impact more people? Why wouldn't you want to change more lives? Like, of course you do, but you justify, and you'll bash other people that are doing what you want to do, but you'll do that so much you'll start to believe your own rhetoric, basically. And you think, you know, do you know we're one of the only industries, right, outside of maybe illegal industries, right, but where there are still landlords and REITs and shopping plazas that have a clause that they will not have a martial arts school in there. And do you know why some places will not allow a martial arts school? Because as a whole, our industry is a joke in the business world. We open and close. We go out of business too often because we don't know how to run businesses. And therefore it hurts the industry as a whole. Where you if you want to go into a good plaza there and they say, look, this grocery anchor has a clause in it, they do not want a martial arts school in because they don't want a business coming in and coming out. And that's ridiculous. And we need to change that. But you can't change it unless we change our mindset as a whole as an industry. So
yeah, and these thought bubbles are great. I would, but I can't because I'd be there if my town is different, right? I mean, if I remember, if I saw something like this and I was so if I was on the Metzger Tassoul Show watching right now and I saw this thought bubble, I'd be like, you know what? Some of those things resonate with me. Yeah, I would, but yeah, I can't because of this, or yeah, I'd be there if, and be mindful of your what you say over the course of the next week, and just see if those things are coming out. And if they are, this is a little old Tony Robbins trick, right? But you need to do a pattern interrupt. And if you catch yourself saying, yeah, you know, I would, but then you stop and you rewind and you say it again, you know what? I will, and here's how I will do it. And you get over that and change your I woulds or I can'ts or, you know, whatever the excuse is, rewind it, restate it, and figure out how to reframe that in a positive way. That may sound a little metaphysical, but we are talking about mindset. And it's important that you understand, you know, your mind, you've heard the expression, right? It's like a parachute. If it's not open, it doesn't work. Your mind also can be like a rubber band, as an example. Sometimes it needs to get stretched. The problem is if we're not constantly putting pressure and stretching, that it goes back to where it was. So we do need to be mindful of having that proper mindset on a daily basis and looking for the positive and the what can I do? Because if you blame, which is justifying, different word for justify is blaming other things, your town, COVID, the people in your town, your area, people here are just different, whatever the blame is, there's no way you personally can ever solve that problem. Whenever there's a problem, and my team knows this, and they've seen me do it, as much as I want to maybe, you know, point the finger, that finger goes right back to me and say, you know what, that's a leadership problem. How can I fix this for next time? And so I would encourage you guys to do that.
And Perry just texted me. He had somebody contact him, and literally he said just this week, tell him that some of the things that we preach don't work in his area. Well, he said little did he know that he has an elite member in the same area doing the same things that he says don't work in the area, and they're very successful and they're working. I mean, it's when are you guys, you know, as an industry, as humans, as people, right? If somebody's able to do what you want to do, when are you going to realize that maybe it's you that's not working it correctly? Like, when are you going to stop pointing the finger outward and start pointing it inward? And just accept it, because when you know that you are the reason why you're not getting to where you want, you have 100% control now. But like Tass was saying, if you want to say, well, my area, COVID, this, the economy, that, you have no control. So you might as well just sit back and close your doors, or just accept doing whatever you're doing. Whatever it is, point inward and figure it out. And the thing that we do well is we have solutions, even COVID. We thrived through COVID. And a lot of you did, I know. But we will figure it out because we never point outward. We always point inward. It's like, okay, the world has just changed. So I'm not going to blame it. We sit in a room and we say, how are we going to adapt to that change? What are we going to do? Because I'm not going to just accept it and be like, well, we're martial arts school owners. Kids for the last 1,000 years have come in front of an instructor and taken class, and now they have shut us down, and kids cannot, or students cannot come to our facility. I guess we close and find something else to do. No, we didn't. What did we do? You guys, we went Zoom, we went virtual, we figured things out. We did what we had to do to the best that we can to stay alive and thrive and do well. But that goes in every area of the business. Next slide. What's the last thing? The reason why. Lack of execution. This is a big one, because then you have somebody, and Tass, this is normal. Once we get on the phone with somebody and we start walking them through it, they come around where they say, you know what, I really need to do that. You know, you're right. I got to get out of my own way. I need to do it. Hit the next slide, Perry. And then this is what happens. Someday I will. I'll do it. You know, what they'll say is, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to get started tomorrow. You know what? I'm going to launch this in the new year. I'm going to start in January, or I'm going to wait till back to school. I'm going to do it then, right? And then you just never get out of your own way. It's always tomorrow. And that's the other difference. When you're with a group of people that are like-minded, that are in the same industry as you, and they're all moving forward, by nature, people follow people. So who are you following? That's the question. Who are you following? When you come into our boat, and by the way, other people's boats too, right? Other consulting industry. When you jump in that boat and everybody's going this way, if you are more of a follower, right, go with the trend, you just happen to you start growing because you just follow everybody. You start executing. You don't procrastinate. You don't wait. You feel like you're with a group, and we're all going to do this together. And that's how it feels in the elite family or the CMA family or any successful group. But you got to be with the right people. Anything you want to add to that, Tass?
Yeah, I think, when we start working with clients, we see, like you said, we see that, right? And there's certain things that are going to be easy to implement, and there's certain things that are going to take a little bit more time to implement. And I remember when I first started consulting, because there are very specific systems that will maximize your revenue and your retention and your recruitment in your school. And I really, because I had the best interest of the client in mind, and I wanted to make sure that those systems were done, it was like, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to. And sometimes the client's not ready for that. I'll give you a perfect example. Like, if there's a right way to do a schedule and there's a better way, as an example, right? Well, if someone's bucking the system on a schedule, I used to say, well, it's a non-negotiable. We need to do schedule. Now, because I've been doing this for so many years, I said, okay, no problem. And then what happens is we'll flood their school with new students, and then they come back and they say, well, we have a schedule problem. We got to fix the schedule. Well, now they're ready to learn. They're ready to take it. So I work the problem differently now. I cause the problem for them so that they see that it's a problem that we can fix it. So not everybody's ready at the right time. And that's something that we're really good at as well, is knowing what we can navigate and still really help and accelerate the business, and know what are the key things and what things can wait. And we know that will definitely pop up in the future based on how we structure everything. And when the time is right, we can overcome that. We can get those things in place. So Yeah, man, this is all great stuff. And, I think Tony Robbins says someday is the road to nowhere and to the town of nowhere. And I think that's important for us to understand. If you hear ourselves saying some of these reasons or these excuses, you got to eliminate them from your vocabulary, and you got to come up with a better way to restate it, because the more you say it, the more you believe it, and the bigger hole that you drive yourself into, the harder it is to change your mindset, because that does become your whole world. And that's the challenge with living in that world.
And by the way, the biggest thing that stops people, hit the next slide. You're caught in a routine. You've been doing this so long, and you're in this routine day in, day out. And a routine means there's not a lot of effort now. It's like your routine. It's like I wake up, maybe some of you have a full-time job, you do that, then you go to your school, you teach classes, you go home and you repeat. Or some of you, this is your full-time job. You get up, you do whatever you do in the mornings, you get to work, and you have your routine. I'm going to work out, or I'm going to check messages, or I'm going to clean up the school, and classes are going to get ready to start, or I'm going to go on a van and pick up kids, or do whatever you guys do. And you go through, and then we repeat. And what's scary, and this is where we go back to mindset, we got to break that routine. And anytime you break a routine, it causes a little bit more stress, right? Because it's just not what you've been used to. But that's where a good coach or whoever comes in. We got to break that routine. And that's going to get you. And by the way, if you don't like to admit it to the public, sit behind closed doors, get a piece of paper, and dream. Dream big as far as what you'd really love to get out of your business. Where would you love to see your business? Would you love to see you never worry about paying a bill again? I mean, is that exciting to you? Would you love to send your kid to college wherever you want them to go and not worry about the tuition costs? Like, that's on the financial side. Would you love to take that black belt and give them an opportunity to really make a living in the martial arts? Like, just open your mind and think big, write it down, and let's get to work. You could do it. I mean, that's the theme. You could do it, right? So any closing statements there, Tass?
Well, it's funny how, like, these three things remind me so much of me going through them, right? And by the way, there's still times that I go through some of these things, right? In different ways. We're never going to get rid of the list, the to-do list, if you will, right? Or the problems. But we do want to make sure that we like make our list of problems a better list of problems. Like, this is the common theme right now with people that we're coaching, right? Well, I need help. I'm overwhelmed. We just have so many students. Oh, okay. Well, is that a better problem than not having enough students, right? Like, which problem do you want to have? So that accelerating the quality of your problems is very, very important. But I see this caught in a routine reminds me of you're in a rut, right? And I think it was Earl Nightingale that said, well, a rut is nothing more than a grave.
You are the philosopher today, buddy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, all these things are coming back in my head, but here's my point. It's because I think what changed my mindset for me, if Metz and Tass ain't going to do it for you on the business side, then go listen to the Tony Robbins, go listen to the Brian Tracy's, go listen to the Earl Nightingales, because they have an unbelievable delivery system, and you can get it on Audible. You can go listen to it in your car. I heard years ago, and if you go in my car any day, you're really not going to hear the radio in my car. Like, turn your car into a traveling university on wheels. And I was always listening to things to get me to the next level. And by the way, Tony Robbins, this is like a pitch for Tony Robbins all of a sudden, but Tony Robbins Unleashed the Power Within. I remember listening to those CDs multiple times over the course of the years, and people like, well, how do you do that? Because what I needed 15 years ago is different than what I needed 2 or 3 years after that, which is different than what I need today. And you hear things differently based on where you're at in your life. And so if we can't do that for you, then take the time and find somebody that you resonate with, but to get your mindset changed, because it will not just affect your business, it will affect all facets of your life. And I think that's an important thing. And I know, Metz, you and I are cut from the same cloth, I think, as far as that's concerned. I mean, from the time I was 19, 20, I was putting in every possible, motivational speaker that I could find. And these things may sound cliche. And yes, you're right. They're like all of a sudden they're on tap when I'm like listening to seeing these slides. But there's a lot of truth in those statements. And we've got to correct and redirect, our life. And we got to be in the driver's seat to take it where we want to go. And at the end of the day, here's what kills all three of those things, right? So you've got your lack of execution, your mindset, and your fear. Well, let me tell you, and it's basically the last slide, but action kills fear. So if you go take action, you're going to kill the fear. And that's the biggest thing. So like Matt said, let's get out there, get busy and have a positive mindset. What we're seeing right now is there's never been a better time in the history of ever to be in the martial art business than right now. And that's been proven through all of our people that are in our coaching programs and people that not even in coaching programs. But what will you do to capitalize on it? What will you do to prepare for the future, protect the future, preserve the future, and know that you're going to be in an okay place? And that all comes from pulling triggers and executing.
And by the way, it's funny, that picture of me there looking at my watch, that's when I was trying to convince you that I can help you. And my watch had died, I remember. And I'm like, my God, it's been 2 hours. It's like, you're going to make a decision here, sir? I don't have time.
Well, yes. I mean, 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get to that decision. That decision had one of two outcomes. It was a yes or it was a no. And had that decision been a no, I cannot even imagine where my life would be, because I know where it was. I was in bankruptcy. I was in foreclosure. Things were going bad, and they would have only snowballed to get worse, right? And so remember, the decisions that you make in that instance will change the trajectory of your life forever. And yeah, so grateful.
And you see Mr. Weaver's comment?
2 hours. Yeah, well, we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, listen, yeah, we don't want you necessarily breaking laws, but at the end of the day, right? We do what we got to do to make sure that we continue to provide for the community and for our team and for our families and ourselves and all that stuff. So anyway,
my thing would not be breaking the law. I would say, well, instead of asking, I will just ask for forgiveness if somebody comes in and says something to me.
Yeah, and I think there's different definitions, right? Because the law was very skewed during COVID. There were so many, well, can you do this? Can you not do this? And then it was like local levels. And by the way, I don't really believe all the people on a local level knew how to handle what we went through, right? And if they did, we would have been unanimous. But every city, every county, every state was different. And so, we just did what we had to do. But, we did the virtual thing. And we were coming in and, there were loopholes. We believed we interpreted the law well. But the concept here for Mr. Weaver is you got to execute. You got to take action, and you don't sit there. Right? And we just had this conversation, Tass. We hear it all the time. I brought it up first this morning when we were talking about fear of competition, right? Oh my gosh, there's a new competitor there, and I'm always like, so what? Like, who cares? Like, why do I? Whether I worry and stress about it or not, they're still there. I don't worry about that stuff. If you know what you're doing and by the way, somebody on here is watching as a competitor, and I'm more than happy to try to motivate you to do better, because I think as an industry, we can do better.
Right. So. Yeah, that's right. I mean, and I threw it back to you and said, okay, so an example, there's a new school that's opening 2 blocks away. Should I be worried, as an example, right? Like, that was a question. Well, no. But then the question is, okay, yes, you should worry. You should worry. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you should worry what?
So should I worry if a school's opening 2 blocks away from me, right? Well, there's you like you said, you don't worry or you worry. But if I say yes, you know what? You should be worried. Okay, well, now what? What does that mean? What do you do differently than if you weren't worried? Like, there's yes, I'm worried. Okay, now I'm just going to worry. If that worry is going to get you off your ass to go take action and make your school better, then be worried. If being not worried is going to keep you complacent, then just don't be worried and stay complacent. But maybe the competition is the best thing that ever happened to you, because it's going to motivate you to finally execute and get rid of the fear and pull some triggers. So it is different for everybody. But, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, you don't worry. You do what you're going to do. And we operate our organization the way we're going to operate it. And, you know, that's the way we'll continue to do it, whether there's 1 school, 10 schools, 100 schools, it's going to be the same thing.
Doesn't matter, right? So, all right. Well, it's good to see everybody. And look, seriously,
Mr. Weaver, you're forgiven.
go write down your dream for your business. Go write it down. And there's no limit. There's not. So write it down and let's make it happen. If you guys ever need anything, you know, you can always private message us. We'll jump on a call. We'll help you out. I mean, I get them every day. I just had one yesterday, right? So whatever it is. So we're more than happy to help you. And good luck with everything, guys. And, you know, for us, back to school's coming real soon. Like the second week in August, our kids go back to school here in Orlando. So it's coming really soon. So hope everybody's doing great. Hope July's going well. Hope your June is going well. But let's have a record. We're into the 3rd quarter of the year already. So,
yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah. All right, Tass.
All right, my friend. Well, hey, listen, thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, you know what I wish? Hey, Mr. Metcalf. How do you shut off your computer? Because this will get real awkward real fast.
I got you guys. Don't worry. I'll finish it up.
Hey, look who it is.
The ninja.
Barry from Las Vegas.
All right. Say your last final goodbyes.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.